Hello and welcome to the Watering Hole. Thanks for checking out this clip. Don't forget to like and subscribe because that'll make the baby Jesus cry, and I know how much you guys love making the baby Jesus cry. Okay, so we're starting with Mary Tally Bowden, MD, who I only saw because Marjorie Taylor Greene reposted it, or retweeted it.
Of course she did.
It says, the COVID shots do not protect the elderly. People in the 65 plus demographic are 5 times more likely to die from inoculation as from COVID-19 under the most favorable assumptions. The data is there if you can find it. Sources in the comments, please add to it. I didn't see any comments with sources in it. And yeah, no, I don't know where they're getting this information from. The article, however, what I found interesting about this, it's not so much the claim, because that's debunked nonsense. Like, look at the date on the article. It's from 2021. So this is 2 years, almost 3 years old at this point. So it's nothing new. There's all sorts of fact check websites that have pointed out that, like, oh, well, the old folks home in Spain that had the 100% rate of COVID eventually while being inoculated, turns out that the COVID infection happened while they were inoculating. So it was like they were racing to get healthy people vaccinated before they got the virus, and because of the incubation period, that made it difficult, and some people died because it's an old folks home with a disease that is deadly to old folks running through it. And that's really all there was to it. But what I found most interesting about this is that if you actually Google that headline, that is a Chinese tabloid that cites a Russian propaganda mill as their source for this. So this is a representative in the American government retweeting misinformation coming from Chinese propaganda that cites Russian propaganda as its source. And they want to complain about Hunter Biden having a business in China.
Look, Hunter Biden's laptop is very important, Rhino. Don't you understand?
I know, it's got his dick on it. Heaven forbid someone have their own personal dick pics on their own personal laptop. As we've already established, you can see my penis if you know where to look on my computer. And that's not something that I plan to make public, but if it gets made public, it's not on me. That's just something that people have sometimes.
I mean, we could just find your dick pics by logging into your computer illegally.
Yeah,
and then just using the webcam.
And then say that I have no shame because you broke into my computer.
Yep. 110%. I'll put it in front of Congress and everything.
No, that's what Lobo did. I mean, no, it was MTG that put it. Yeah, she put it in front of Congress, but Lobo was the one who said he has no shame because of his laptop.
You have no shame being a man with a dick.
And that was after she was caught being fondled in a public theater. Anyway, I just thought it was amusing. Well, not amusing, more scary that a member of Congress was retweeting obvious propaganda from known propaganda sources as if it's true. Oh, speaking of Lauren Boebert, says, I posted a few months ago how our national debt hit a historic $33 trillion. Here we are just a few months later, and we've now hit $34 trillion in debt. These piles and piles of debt that we've racked up over the years are an albatross around every American citizen's neck. And yet Democrats only want to spend more and more. The funny thing about this is the Republicans tend to be the one that increase the debt the most. Like, Trump increased it by $8 trillion. Joe Biden so far has increased it by, I want to say it's like 5 or 6 trillion. So like if he continues at this rate, he will have increased the national debt significantly less than Trump. And like the presidents in history that have increased the national debt by the biggest percentage overall have been the ones that were president during World War I and World War II. And it was the world wars that did it.
Yeah, you'd kind of expect it during that. And
then after that, it's all Republicans and Obama. Because Obama had the 2008 crisis to deal with, which was a Bush-era budget that was passed that didn't take effect until Obama was president. So, like, even Obama's large raise of the debt could be blamed on Bush if you really wanted to. He did do stuff that increased it more, but, like, Republicans are the ones who increased the debt. It's just like Reagan was like up there in the top 5 of like people who increased the debt by the most percent. And there was no war while Reagan was president. I mean, the Cold War, that doesn't really count.
It's funny. We spent a shit ton of money during the Cold War, though, both in
Yeah,
funding.
yeah, but like Reagan took office when it was beginning to ramp down, and it was in the tear down this wall era.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down
Like,
this
it's
wall.
literally one of the things he's most famous for is ramping down the Cold War, and he still managed to be one of the top increasers of the national debt by percentage.
We Thanks,
Yeah,
Lobo. Thanks for being that guy.
yeah. So yeah, it's the Republicans who increase it, but they increase it on military spending, whereas the Democrats increase it on things that will actually like help people.
Like infrastructure.
Yeah. So like, I'm sorry, but if given the choice, I'll take the stuff that helps people over military shit. Because and then they'll turn right around and be like, "Why is the like?" I didn't save this for the tweets, but someone posted like it was a world map that had like a bunch of like American military base locations, and it was like, "Why do we have all our soldiers over here instead of at the Mexican border where they could protect our actual country?"
Because
Be
the
like,
Mexican border is not a fucking threat.
yeah, no. Not only is it not a fucking threat, especially like even if you consider it a threat from an immigration standpoint, it's not a military threat. So sending the military there is not the solution to that problem. But like even so, you guys are the ones saying we need this big ass military. So like, make up your fucking minds. Oh
What
yeah,
do we have
and
next after Lobo's dumb butt?
and Sakura says it's not just the military; they also give tax breaks to the wealthy and major corporations. Yeah, that was one of the biggest increases, like outside of the COVID pandemic, which I will give Trump a little bit of credit. A good chunk of his increase of the national debt was because of COVID, but outside of that, the biggest increase was his tax cut to the billionaires. Like he was already on track to be one of the biggest increases of the national debt in history before the pandemic. And then the pandemic made it even bigger.
I have to wonder what would happen if we actually got the debt to zero. Probably nothing.
Yeah. I don't, well, so the thing is, like the way the national debt works, a lot of people don't really understand this. It's like it's people that hold like mutual funds in other countries that buy like American bonds. And it's like I
Mm-hmm.
will buy this like the mutual fund buys the bonds under the understanding that it's a safe investment that like it's guaranteed to pay back a certain amount of like a certain percentage over the course of time. So like whatever else happens in the portfolio, having these safe ones here, it might not be an amazing return on investment, but at least it's a return on investment. And if the debt gets too out of control, then people will no longer be buying these bonds because you can't guarantee that they're actually going to pay out.
Mm.
And that can cause that could cause a worldwide global financial crisis as opposed to a not worldwide global crisis. You know what I mean? And that's only a small part of it. Like that's not even the whole thing, but like I have financed some of the American debt because I have a portfolio that has some American stuff in it. And the bank that I do that through is like if it gets to a point where the Republicans are like, no, we're not going to raise the debt ceiling, so we can't continue making the interest payments on these things, then banks are going to be like, okay, that's more of a risky investment. So the people that say I want a safe investment aren't going to want that anymore. And then you're going to have a harder time getting the debt to do stuff. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. I'm way oversimplifying this, but that is a part of it, at least.
I'm assuming you know more about it than Lobo, so
Probably. Although they've the organization that tracks how much politicians make on the stock market has posted the recent figures, and Lobo doesn't do too bad. All right, DC Drano, complete troll. I was putting the show together a bit at the last minute. I don't normally go for DC Drano because he's beneath me generally. He says, tweeting doesn't do anything. Well, it took down Bud Light, Target, Disney, and the woke president of Harvard, so...
but it didn't take down any of those people. It had nothing to do with Twitter. Not to mention, Bud Light's still running strong. Target's still running strong. Disney is still running strong. What?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I actually did a spreadsheet. I looked up the numbers because I can never make anything easy on myself, because why the fuck would I do that? Uh, Untitled spreadsheet, because I didn't give it a title. Okay, so Disney in 2022 made $82.72 billion. In 2023, they made $88.9 billion for a increase year over year of 7.47%. That doesn't sound like they took them down. Target made 106 billion in 2022 and 109 billion in 2023 for a percent increase of 2.94%. Again, that's not an amazing increase, but it's nothing to shake a stick at, especially when you're talking billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Now, InBev, which is the company that owns Bud Light, they haven't released their quarter four 2023 numbers yet, so I only did Q1, 2, and 3 for 2022 rather than looking at Q4 and doing the overall thing. So between Q1, 2, and 3, they made 43.12 billion. Q1, 2, and 3 of 2023, they made 44.91 billion for an increase of 4.15%. Q2 is when the boycott happened. They only increased their revenue in Q2 year over year by 2.21%. So, yeah, that's such terrible numbers. They only increased by 2%.
If your business is growing by 2% every year, it's actually a good thing.
Yeah,
It's a pretty good rate.
Now that is InBev. So Bud Light, as a subsidiary of InBev, has actually taken a hit, and a not insignificant hit. In fact, they've laid off, I think it's 400 workers in North America. So what they accomplished by their boycott of Bud Light was they hurt American workers, and the corporate executives that make all the money from the companies still made a shit ton of money through the other brands that they own.
So the people responsible for the decision they disagree with suffered not at all.
Yep. The only people that suffered were working class Americans working at the plants that they shut down because people weren't buying as much Bud Light anymore.
You know, these are the types of people who would shoot themselves in the foot no matter what.
Or in the beer, as if you're Kid Rock.
No. He didn't shoot the beer. A guy off screen shot the beer.
But also, like, the president of Harvard, have you read into this at all?
No, I haven't. I've seen.
So
I saw it pop up in my feed, but that's about it.
So she resigned. There were some allegations of plagiarism. My understanding is that the initial allegations Harvard investigated, and they were like, yeah, one of your papers needed 2 more citations, but other than that, you're fine. And like,
yes, another victim of H-bomber guy.
Yeah, basically. Sure. But like, I've done enough. Like, I can see how you might miss a couple citations in a big project. I get that. Whatever. There have been more allegations since then, though, although they haven't been investigated yet, and they haven't necessarily been substantiated yet. So they are, at this point, just allegations. And given the people doing the allegating, I'm not confident saying that they are accurate. Now, if they are accurate, then absolutely resigning is the appropriate thing to do. However, at the moment, what it looks like is she forgot to include a couple citations in one of her papers, and then because of some testimony she gave in front of Congress, she has been bullied by the right wing for being black, to the point where she felt the need to resign for her own safety, because she's getting threats and stuff from the right.
Oh.
And a lot of it is racially based, because she is a black lady. And what happened was they were brought, like, there was her, the president of MIT, and I think it was the University of Pennsylvania, were brought before Congress, and they were asked, like, does calling for the genocide of the Jews constitute a violation of your code of conduct where discipline would be meted out? And they all answered something along the lines of, it would depend on the context, because this was being asked by a Republican, and as we know, they don't like to do things honestly. They weren't framing it honestly. They were just asking, like, they were just saying, does calling for the genocide of the Jews constitute a violation of the code of conduct? When in reality, the situation that they were alluding to was like a protest against Israel invading Palestine. And sometimes there were people that don't really know the political ins and outs that were using slogans that could be construed as a call for genocide. And so in that context, it's like, no, that's not necessarily a violation of the code of conduct to a point where we would take disciplinary actions, but like, yeah, maybe don't call for this thing that historically has been kind of genocidal in nature. And yeah, so they were trying to walk that line between this politician is asking me this thing that like the way she's asking it, it should have a clear yes or no, but she is referencing a situation that did not have a clear yes or no. And there was more nuance to it than that. So how do I navigate this in a way that addresses the nuance without saying it's okay to call for the genocide of Jews? Because it's not. And
yeah,
I think
because at that point, if you don't answer it correctly, it could be constrained and it could be conveyed that you don't think that teaching the Holocaust is okay, because part of teaching the Holocaust would be explaining the nature of the genocidal language that was used against the Jews.
Well, yeah, and I looked into this because the thing that I forget who it was, but the person who was asking them, the Republican senator who was asking them, was specifically referencing a word that in Palestine has historically referred to the violent rebellion against Israel's occupation. And if you don't know the cultural context of that word, I could see how you could interpret that as just being like, oh no, Israel is oppressing these people, so I am calling for resistance to that. But because the word that they were using has specifically been tied to violence in the past, like there was a very much pro-Israel, very much pro-Jewish website that was like explaining why this comes across as genocidal. But even they, on this very much pro-Israel, pro-Jewish website, was like, yeah, no, it doesn't necessarily mean the people that are saying it are calling for genocide. They might just not fully understand the context, but we're explaining why this sounds like a call to genocide for us. And I think that's perfectly valid. And this, like, if anything, it falls more in the lines of white people who have no cultural, no idea of what's going on culturally in the area, trying to, come in and be white saviors or whatever. And like, I kind of like, I get that from the perspective of the white guy who's like, I want to do something to help because both sides are being fucking stupid in the Israel versus Hamas thing. And like, they're just normal people that are there that are being harmed by these stupid ideological driven nonsense. And like, I just want to help those people. And yeah, fighting against the oppressor sounds like a good way to do that. But they don't fully understand that, some of the words they're using come across as calling for a genocide.
Mm-hmm.
And so from the perspective of an administrator at a school, it's like, I want the students to have the freedom to make those mistakes and then learn from them. As opposed to just like, oh no, you said that word, so you're expelled. Oh, Stefanik is the Republican Elise Stefanik is the person who is doing the questioning.
Like, especially if you're in a position as an educator, your goal is to give somebody context, let somebody know, hey, this is not a good thing to say because this. If you just expel somebody because they said something and they didn't know what the context of it was, all you're going to do is take that person and push them further into extremism.
Well,
if you haven't given them that opportunity.
So Steve Weber is saying she's either anti-Semitic or she's anti-free speech. The scenario is a trap. That's exactly it.
Yep, it is a double bind, which is a thing that abusers put you in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like, and Stefanik in the hearing, she's very much like, this is a very clear yes/no. Like, does calling for genocide of Jewish people violate your code of conduct? This should be a very easy yes. And it's like, yeah, phrase like that, it should be. However, the thing you're referring to was not necessarily seen as a call for genocide among the people who were saying it. And like, and you got to keep in mind, like the same people that are saying like, oh, they need to resign because they said calling for genocide is okay. These same people were defending the people in Charlottesville or Charlotte, whatever it was, that were chanting,
Charlottesville.
yeah,
We
that
will
were
not
chanting
replace
Jews,
us.
Jews will not replace us. They were defending those people.
Don't you
And
understand,
now
Rhino?
they're
There
getting
were good
all
people on both sides.
yeah, but now they're getting all offended because some people are using a word that could be interpreted as a call for genocide, but they don't necessarily understand that. I don't know. This is just the whole thing is just dishonesty all the way down.
The only way that you could answer that question without getting trapped is the school's position is that we do not support intentional and targeted use of genocidal rhetoric.
Mm-hmm.
Is the only and it's you have to be so
what they
careful.
Said. That was basically what they said, Cyrus. They were like, if there's genocidal rhetoric being directed at specific people, absolutely that violates our code of conduct. Like they said that flat out, and people are still calling for the resignation. So Dapper's Invagination Station and All Points West says, can one be pro-Jewish but anti-Israel? Yes, absolutely.
Of course.
So like this is another thing where like anti-Semitism is on the rise. And like I sympathize more with the people of Palestine than Israel because Israel is the oppressor in this situation. But that does not mean that it's okay to be like, you're Jewish, so you're bad. Like, they're just fucking human beings. Deal with people as though they're people. All people are people.
You don't say that Americans are bad. You say that America is bad, and we are a nation that has built an empire in all but name, and that's not me directly quoting Noam Chomsky, but it is actually me directly quoting Noam Chomsky if you haven't read any of his books. But it is perfectly reasonable to say that America as a nation has engaged in destabilization of otherwise peaceful nations, has engaged in exploitation of other nations, has taken over shit that is not rightfully its, like that. Those are all fair things to do. But it's when you say Americans, the people who live here, who most of the time don't even have a fucking choice, we just grew up here. When you bridge that line, that's a problem. And the reason I frame it as through the lens of Americans is nobody's worried about being too anti-American unless you're like on the right and you've got a bunch of boogeymen in the closet.
Yeah.
So if you use that framing device and go, okay, these are the ways that I think language would be comfortable. These are the ways I think language would not be comfortable. Now, just reframe it to Israel and people who are living within Israel who are predominantly Jewish because it's a religious ethno-state, let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, so Sakura is pointing out that a lot of anti-Semitic evangelicals are pro-Israel. And that's because in order to bring about the end times as prophesied by the Bible, the chosen people need to reconquer the Holy Land or whatever. I forget the exact details of it, but like the battle at Armageddon is a big thing.
Yeah, they believe
Armageddon
that
is a valley in Israel.
They believe that the establishment and the proliferation of Israel is a necessary beginning step, and even one of the first main steps.
That's the whole reason why the United States supported the formation of Israel in the first place as a nation.
If you want to understand the fetishization of Israel as it relates to Armageddon and the tribulation, I highly recommend taking some time to read the Tim LaHaye Left Behind series, because I grew up with that series, and if you read that series, there is a lot of stuff in the early the first two books about the establishment of Israel, the political nature of getting that nation to be what it needs to be for the grand stage of Nikolai Carpathia. That's a huge narrative device in in that book series, to the point where when you get further into the book series, they even have to start establishing believer camps in the middle of Israel, specifically because that's where all the war and conflict starts to be centered later on into the novels.
Yeah.
So if you want to understand that shit,
that's because the Bible says that there's going to be a bunch of wars specifically in that area, followed by a 7-year peace treaty.
Thought the weren't the exact words wars and rumors of wars the vaguest way you could possibly describe it.
My favorite thing though is like every single one of the end times movies or book series or whatever, like always the bad guys in the books or show or whatever are the people who bring world peace.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, they brought world peace. They're obviously the bad guys who are the Antichrist and anti-God. And we're like, they brought world peace, though. Is that not a good thing?
Yeah, I feel weird recommending that book series to people because I know how shit it is.
Oh, there are ways to get it without paying the authors.
There are certainly ways to get it.
I'm not going to say, but I believe our audiences are intelligent enough to figure that out.
I have been watching a lot of One Piece.
All right. Next up. Marissa says, I used to watch porn, lust after women, practice New Age spirituality, cuss, drink, steal, smoke weed, gossip, be hateful, fight, lie, listen to secular music, use people for gain, and much more. Jesus Christ freed me.
Oh, wait. But you got restricted from doing all of those things then. That wasn't free. Unless
this is one of those 1984 freedom is slavery things where, like, you know, the freeing feeling you get under Jesus is you are now free to not do all these things that everybody else is free to do. It's just completely back-ass words.
Like, if you go down the list, right, there are unhealthy ways to engage in every single one of those things, right?
Yeah.
You can have porn addiction.
I unhealthily engage in drinking every Wednesday, but this is not how I normally drink. I don't normally drink as much as I do.
Are you saying I drive you to drinking?
I am nowhere near as drunk today as I was when I was drinking the scotch, which I actually still have. Like, I haven't touched this since I drank half the bottle of scotch on stream.
Was that last week?
I think it was. And there was a good 3 or 4 days where it's like, I kind of want a beer, but also my body is like, no, you add too much alcohol.
Like, so you can have a porn addiction. That's unhealthy. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that porn addiction is a very, very hard thing for people to even try to recover from. And it rewires the brain when you consume too much of it. It's like, yeah, there's a vice there. I can get that. Lusting after women, if you're Master Roshi, probably don't do that shit.
Well, I mean, considering this person is female presenting, I'm guessing that carries the extra sin of homosexuality.
I would assume so.
But like,
so you're practicing New Age spirituality. I thought freedom of religion was a good thing, personally. I only really have a problem with cursing if people are using it as 90% of their language.
Okay, the New Age spirituality thing, even if you believe Christianity is true, you would think that Christianity would be able to stand up against spirituality on its own merits.
Yeah.
So, like, if you try both, Christianity is the clear winner.
It should be there were these anti-drug PSAs when I was a kid that were like very, very Christian. I can't remember what they were, but I remember shit like try a hit of Jesus instead. That type of rhetoric, like he's the strongest drug you'll ever have, man.
Yeah, I remember those.
So that's what I'm getting there.
Cussing, it depends on the intention behind it. And like, I would say that the Bible actually supports me with this because it's like talking about like being uplifting to your fellow brothers or whatever. And like there is no Bible verse that says thou shalt not say fuck.
Yeah. It says, it's like the closest you get is the whole like thou shalt not swear ish.
It's not even thou shalt not swear. It's like you don't curse, but like even then it's not cursing as in using swear words. It's cursing as in like
practicing magic.
May a devil curse you for being mean to me and like you'll have bad luck for the rest of your life. Like that's what it means by cursing. It doesn't mean swearing.
Also, just like skipping down the way, because like we could go over how each and every one of these could be a bad vice or just like a mundane thing people do. People steal to live. People smoke
But
weed for
like,
pain relief.
well, like don't drink. The first miracle Jesus did was
Water to wine.
turning water to wine so that a drunken party could continue. And
So
like the guy flat out stated that everybody was already drunk because like that was the whole thing, is that most people give the good wine at first before everybody's drunk. Then once everybody's drunk, they bring out the shit to like make the rest of the party cheap. But you brought out the good wine after everybody's drunk to keep the party going.
so the one that I kind of want to focus on the most, though, listening to secular music. First
Yeah.
of all,
I got that as well. Like,
what the fuck is secular music?
yeah, because like I really like the Toccata and Fugue by Bach in D minor. It's like that's the for those who aren't familiar, that's the it's the kind of like Dracula spooky organ going
Yeah.
yeah. But like if you listen to the whole thing, it's very intricate. It's like Bach composed it not to be a beautiful piece of music, but to be something to test the bellows of the organs that he was installing. It's like it goes all out on the bellows mechanism, and it's amazing, and I love it. And it's like all the different voices that get used in the organ throughout it. Like I don't like the orchestrated versions. I like the organ version because I love me a good pipe organ. I love an organ. I love the organ. But like there's nothing religious about it. It's completely secular. What's wrong with it?
Yeah, that's why I'm sitting here like, so what is secular music versus just fucking music?
Mozart literally composed a piece that when you translate it into English is "Lick Me in the Asshole." Like that's the name of the piece. You didn't know that one?
I did not know that. No. Don't type in "lick me in the asshole" into Google live on stream. That's probably not a smart idea.
Wikipedia is pretty safe generally. Leck mich im Arsch, German for "lick me in the arse," is a canon in B flat major composed by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. With lyrics in German, it was one of a set of at least 6 canons, probably written in Vienna in 1782, sung by 6 voices in a 3-part round. It is thought to be a party piece for his friends. So, like, does that count as secular music?
Yeah, I don't know. And that's the thing. I don't know what you would call secular music outside of just fucking music. And don't try to be like, oh, well, the only thing I listen to is stuff that comes out of the hymnal. Because I'm going to be honest.
Some Christian music is good. Like Beethoven's Fifth. Very Christian. Very good. Okay. But like Beethoven wrote other stuff that was not Christian, but was also very good.
Owl City is a Christian band, and they made Fireflies.
Yeah.
It's a good song.
Yeah.
The only thing I think of when I think, so like when I hear Christian music, right? Just the term Christian music. There's 2 things that come into my head. Either it's shit straight from the hymnal,
Yeah.
or I'm hearing, give me that Christian side hug. Or I'm hearing that again.
Virginity is cool. Virginity is. I actually have that one. I still have that. I could probably play it now if I looked for it, but I don't feel like looking for it. So. Yeah, so it's just, I don't know. This whole thing is just weird, even from a Christian perspective. Like,
Yeah,
use people for gain and much more. Jesus Christ freed me. I feel like the atheists that I know are less likely to use people for gain than the Christians. Like, okay, Capturing Christianity, just freaking on Twitter today, he posted like his performance from 2022 versus 2023. And he was like, oh, look how much I've grown over 2023. And he posted screenshots of the YouTube graph of your analytics, but he cut off the very right-hand portion of the graph, which is where the revenue is kept.
Yeah.
And that post had him saying, hey, I need a bunch more money to do a bunch of ministry stuff. So it's like, it's
transparent as fuck.
Like we've talked about this before. Like you have shown your finances live on stream. I will never do that because I'm a very private individual. I don't want people knowing my finances. And I fully support anybody's like anybody who wants to be private with their finances, that's their business. Like when Linus Tech Tips goes to their finance page on the YouTube thing and just shows it on one of their videos, I'm just like, why would you show that? That seems like private stuff. But like they're a company and it's a transparency thing or whatever. And it just seems wrong to me that they do that. But like Cameron, he's running a charity. He is registered as a 501c3. If you donate to Capturing Christianity, the ministry, that is a tax-deductible donation, and he receives your money, and he does not have to pay taxes on it. You can actually go to he did file a what is it, a 990? The income
I'm not
form
certain.
the income form that charitable organizations in the states
501c3.
yeah, the charitable organizations file that shows what their income is and where it went. He filed one of those up until 2021. He did not file one for 2022. I'd be very surprised if he filed one for 2023. Because in 2021, he made like $183,000 through his ministry. And I can tell you, he was not getting the views to get that from YouTube. That was mostly donations.
That was donos.
So like as a YouTuber, like I like looking at his numbers, I'm like, I can kind of guess at what his YouTube income is. Like
Here's how it was when I was
making
doing
fucking bank. The dude is making fucking bank, and he doesn't have to report it.
When I was looking at the Boogie interview, I had the same feeling of like, I know what my channel looks like at certain numbers, so I know what your channel should look like at these numbers.
Yeah.
And the maths ain't mathin'.
Yeah. So like he's making a lot of, and is also this was for a previous video ages ago, but like his when I looked up his charity, it's registered to an address, and when you look up that address, it's just a house. So it's probably just his house is owned by his charity. So like his whole income.
Wait. His house. That means that his
his whole fucking income, his whole life is just lived tax-free. And he's begging for money as a YouTuber. And I can tell you, YouTuber, we have no fucking overhead. The only overhead we have is our basic living expenses.
Yeah, the only overhead that I have is the stuff that I choose to have as overhead. If I go, I need a new model, I am paying for that. That's technically overhead, but I'm choosing to do that.
My most expensive piece of equipment is my lens. It was like $800, and it was just like I threw it on my Amazon wish list as a like just kind of maybe I'll remember to buy this when I have it in the budget years from now. And then just somebody bought it for me, and I'm just like, holy fucking shit! I now have an $800 piece of equipment. This is amazing.
Yup.
Anyway, Heidi says, "Bring on the DC talk."
The DC
what will
talk?
people think if they hear that I'm a Jesus freak? What will people do when they say that it's true?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know the Christian songs.
What if God were one of us? What if he died getting hit by a bus? What?
Okay, bringing on the case orbs. The last presidential candidate to be removed from the ballots was Abraham Lincoln by the Democrats because they wanted to keep their slaves. Okay, ignoring the fact that the party switched sides in the 50s. So the Democrats of the 1800s were the Republicans. They're like, who's joining the KKK now? It ain't the Democrats. Like, it doesn't matter who did it in the past. It's who's doing it now.
I registered Republican. I voted for Donald Trump. And I think this white hat looks great on me.
Yeah. But also, the removed from the ballots is not entirely true. You'll be surprised to know. So back in Lincoln's day, they didn't really have ballots the same way they do today. It was kind of like you could provide ballots in areas if you chose to as a member of a party. And Abe Lincoln chose not to provide ballots with his name already on it for a bunch of states that were slaveholding states that weren't going to vote for him.
Wait, so he did it on his own?
Yeah, he did it on his own. He wasn't removed by the Democrats. And on top of that, most of the quote-unquote ballots back then were not ballots. It was just a sheet of paper that you would write your candidate's name on and put it in the special box.
Oh, boy. That's wonderful.
So, like, it wasn't even, like, there weren't even ballots in any sense even remotely similar to what you do today.
Kevin Sorbo lying on the internet? Who would have thought?
Senchini says, I'm here. We can start now. Hi, Senchini.
All right, let's take it from the top.
Yeah, let's go all the way back to... Let's watch some more of Babyface Guy. Fucking pronouns!
Left-wing ideology. Gay.
Guy.
What the fuck?
Meanwhile, never mind the fact that in other episodes, the Doctor literally kissed another man. But yeah, the fact that he's wearing a kilt in this one makes him gay.
He's gay.
Whatever. Kevin Sorbo again says, we got rid of the name Redskins because it was offensive, but we still have a cotton bowl. Okay, so first off, Redskins is an offensive way to refer to an entire race of people. And the cotton bowl was just like, hey, we're in the South and we grow a lot of cotton and it's a football thing. And like it's a college football thing, and like the Rose Bowl happens in a place known for its roses. So we're going to do the Cotton Bowl in a place known for its cotton.
Known for its cotton.
And now, yes, there could very well be racist implications there because like slaves picked a lot of cotton. That was a thing that they did. So like I could see there being some racist roots there. But my understanding is that it's not. It's just that's where cotton happens to grow. And so they called it the Cotton Bowl. And this was one of the few things in American history that was not directly named after a racist thing. It was just like, oh, well, the Rose Bowl is already established, and this is an area known for cotton, so we're going to do Cotton Bowl. So like, yeah, it's about the origins, Kevin.
Jesus Christ. Why is it that every single time that we see a tweet from Kevin Sorbo, it is more disappointing than the last? It is never... I mean, I'm never impressed by something that comes out of this man's mouth.
Sometimes I feel bad about using Kevin Sorbo tweets because I know he literally had a stroke when he was Hercules, and that affected his cognitive abilities. So like this feels like picking on the disabled person, but like he's so influential that it's like, no, you need to be taken down a peg.
Yeah. Hi, Growlith. I see that you are growling at me, as is your namesake. How are you doing, hun?
So last tweet, Kevin Sorbo again says, your ancestors were immigrants. They came here homeless and found work. They weren't given hotel rooms and care packages.
Oh boy.
So yeah, no. When the white people showed up in North America, no, they weren't given hotel rooms and care packages, but
they came with smallpox blankets.
Yeah, no, they didn't just like come and find work and employment. They came and like genocided the people that lived here already. And then we're like, this is our land now.
Also, even if that were the case, even if they came in and like every American, infantilization of the Trail of Tears was true, I can already say it doesn't matter because it has never and will never be a cogent argument to say that it should be as hard today as it was in the past for anyone ever.
Absolutely.
It doesn't. But
also, okay,
doesn't work that way.
If I play devil's advocate here and give his argument the best shot, he's not talking about people who can trace their ancestry back to the original settlers of the American continent. He's talking about people that like immigrated in the 1930s from Ireland or whatever. And it's like, okay, maybe, but like, still, the white people on the American continent trace their dominant position back to the fact that they genocided the natives, or at least tried to. So like, yeah, sure, there were signs saying Irish need not apply in New York City. But like,
this is your brain when you only consume PragerU.
Yeah.
Hold on. She is begging to be let out.
Well, I was just about to say that was the last tweet. So
fair.
So
fair.
I can hear her making fun noises in the background.
Come here, Growlith. Come here. Come here. How are you doing? Jeez.
All right. So I will let Growlith go, and I will go. Like we're an hour and 15 minutes over time. We may as well say that this show ends at 11 at this point.
And it has the last couple times.
Yeah. Oh, hats off to me. Oh, I don't even know what to put on my head at this point. There, beer bottle. It's the end of the stream. It's the end of the stream. As always, fuck off.